medical team provides treatment to the people of Ecuador. We'll show you how Space Command is drawing closer to near space. And we'll spotlight the newest stateside Air Force chapel in 20 years on Air Force Space Today with your host, Krista Knaus.
Welcome to our new studios here at Los Angeles Air Force Base, California. As U.S. forces deploy to inhospitable territories such as Iraq and Afghanistan, they find dry, featureless terrain with no real landmarks or points of reference to use while traveling across wide open and often dangerous landscapes. In the past, a map and compass were the tools used to track down the enemy and find their exact location in theater. That's no longer the case. Weighing in at less than a pound, the Dagger packs a huge punch. Warfighters are now turning to a 12-channel device known as the Defense Advanced Global Positioning System receivers, also known as Dagger. The Dagger is considered the handheld standard for GPS position, navigation, and situation awareness. Rockwell Collins manufactures the Dagger and has now delivered 50,000 Daggers for use by U.S. warfighters. For the Space and Missile Systems Center's Navstar Joint Program Office here at Los Angeles Air Force Base, this is a noteworthy achievement for its mission in providing state-of-the-art technology.
The 50,000th Dagger program is very significant because years ago when we fought battles, we were in full terrain featured areas to where a soldier could look for mountains, roads, streams, anything to identify the terrain and compare on a map. With today's combat, we're in featureless terrains in deserts, and we need to get more GPS devices out there to assist the soldiers. Years ago, we hadn't planned to need quite as many GPS devices, and today we're building them as quickly as we can to give to all of the war fighters, Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. And to be able to now receive 50,000 Daggers is extremely significant.
The Dagger has been received very well by the warfighter. We fielded over 33,000 Daggers to date. In January of this year, we conducted a buy from Rockwell Collins to purchase over 28,000 Daggers.
The Dagger is anticipated to have a 10-year service life. Its primary function is to provide precise positioning service support to land-based warfighting operations and operations other than war. This includes support to ground personnel, indirect fire weapon systems, and armed vehicles. It further incorporates an anti-jamming device for increased protection. It's the first GPS handheld device to include the Selective Availability Anti-Spoofing module.
The Dagger is the current generation of handheld receivers currently being fielded to the force today. The Plugger is the older generation, still in the force, but the Dagger is slowly replacing the Plugger on a one-for-one basis. Now, some of the advantages over the Plugger to the Dagger are the Dagger is approximately 1/3 the weight and volume of the Plugger. The battery life is significantly higher with the Dagger. The Plugger, the solutions initially were only text message, whereas with the Dagger you have a graphical user interface where you load maps and you have more viewing, and also the reliability is much higher in the Dagger over the Plugger.
Navstar GPS Joint Program Office stands tall with this accomplishment in scientific research and development and looks forward to future challenges in meeting the needs of our nation's armed forces. An unarmed Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile system, or ICBM, launches from Vandenberg Air Force Base, California. The purpose of the flight is to verify the Minuteman's ability to carry the safer and more accurate Mark 21 warhead, originally designed for the Peacekeeper missile. The missile's single unarmed re-entry vehicle travels approximately 4,800 miles in about 30 minutes, hitting a predetermined target at the Kwajalein Missile Range in the Marshall Islands. The reliability and accuracy data will also be used by United States strategic command planners to ensure effective employment of the Minuteman III. ICBMs have been around since the 1950s. The early systems existed for very short periods of time, even as short as 2 to 5 years. Minuteman III has been around since 1970, and Air Force Space Command projects it will be around until 2018, a very long time to sustain a system that's a major portion of our strategic defense.
A great deal of these sustainment costs, for instance, the issue of total cost of ownership, come in the form of the technology that existed in the 70s being difficult to sustain today in 2006. As we look at the cost of sustaining the Minuteman system, and by the way, it is the most cost-effective piece of the strategic triad, we find that a great deal of the cost that we sink into Minuteman III is based on very frequent maintenance work that goes on out in the missile fields. So as we look to the future, we look for opportunities to upgrade security, to upgrade the components of the Minuteman III to make them more reliable so that they fail less often, and that's perhaps our biggest way of reducing total cost of ownership.
Space Command is confident in finding a replacement for the Minuteman III that will keep our Air Force base today at the forefront of nuclear deterrence well into the future. A long-range strategic target system rocket, or STARS missile, blasted more than 100 miles into the atmosphere from Alaska's Kodiak Island in the first of several tests planned this year for the National Missile Defense System. The 35-foot missile traveled 2,500 miles toward the California-Mexico border, splashing down in the Pacific Ocean. The radar at Beale Air Force Base, California, tracked the missile and transmitted its data to commanders at Colorado Springs, including a weapon response plan that would be used to launch a ballistic missile interceptor. 4 stars, 37 years, and one very long shadow. The man who has stood at the helm of Air Force Space Command, General Lance Lord, officially retires this month, ending a 37-year Air Force career. He is the only career space and missile officer to hold the position of Commander, Air Force Space Command. During his tenure from April 2002 to 2006, our video crew has had the distinct honor of covering General Lord throughout his endeavors within the command and his efforts out in the community. As he departs for civilian life, General Lord gives us his thoughts on a remarkable past and his plans for the future.
You know, with 37 years in active duty and then 4 years of ROTC and then 4 years of going to a military high school, I've been wearing a uniform for almost 45 years. So I think that's something I always wanted to do. I really came in the Air Force on a waiver, a vision waiver, and that was the only service that would take me. So it worked out great. I've been delighted to serve and have the opportunity to serve with some wonderful people and to be able at the chief executive level with the chief of staff and the secretary of the Air Force and under to help kind of shape and influence how we've emerged as an Air Force. And I really think that because of some of the decisions we've made and the great leadership we have now, you know, I look forward to you know, watching from the sidelines as this team continues to just score touchdown after touchdown. They told me, they said, in retirement you can do anything you want. And I said, well, that's all I've been doing for 37 years is what I wanted, you know, and serving the country and working with great people. So you can't ask for anything better than that. Well, Becky and I, she and I have been together for total service time together. She's been with me every step of the way. So that's 74 years of total service. So we'll have a chance. We're going to get situated in our new home there in Colorado Springs. And I think I still have a lot to offer, so I'm going to look around and see what's out there and continue to serve probably in a different way. Being able to walk out after devoting 37 years to the space and ICBM missions, to have space recognized and the people that operate in the medium of space recognized as equal partners with air, land, and sea is to me absolute payback for all the 37 years I've been involved in this business. So it's time for me to go. Continue to do what you're doing, take care of each other, and we will continue to be the best and the world's most respected air and space force. And last but not least, if you're not in space, you're not in the race, that's for sure, so keep it up.
General Lord, thank you for your service and dedication. Our Air Force Base Today will carry on your legacy for years to come. Stay tuned now as Air Force Base Today continues.
The Pentagon Channel wants the world to know you are not forgotten.
On the next edition of Freedom Journal Iraq, Ukrainian soldiers secure the Iranian border, and we'll show you the face of courage. Don't miss those stories and more on FJI.
The 54th Helicopter Squadron out of Minot Air Force Base, North Dakota, has added a 7th UH-1 Huey helicopter to increase its mission capability. The helicopter flew in from Corpus Christi, Texas, where it underwent phase maintenance from its previous assignment at Vandenberg Air Force Base, California. The additional helicopter significantly improves Minot's ability to project air mobile security forces to the missile complex. Ever since 9/11, the unit's primary mission is with security forces, providing security during convoy movements and in the missile field. This capability serves as a deterrent to those who may be considering a terrorist attack in the U.S.
No, we're very happy to have this new addition. Again, although we're in the operations group, we work very closely with the members of the security forces group. And additionally, we have some of the best maintainers in 20th Air Force, and we're very happy to get the aircraft. We'll put it to good use.
The process took over a year and a half, a lot of which was proving why this chopper was needed to support security forces at Minot over any other base. Well, it's a record-breaking month for the 21st Medical Group from Peterson Air Force Base, Colorado. An elite team of Space Command medics treated more than 7,000 people in a 10-day humanitarian exercise throughout isolated towns in Ecuador. Air Force Base Today introduces you to the team.
Outdoor courtyards and rundown schools, some with no electricity or running water, serve as temporary clinics for Air Force and Ecuadorian doctors working side by side to treat Ecuadorian patients.
For Space Command, we're very far-reaching, and it shows that we're able to do different missions, and this shows a lot of side of the Air Force, you know, so we're able to help out other people who are less fortunate.
In 4 isolated towns, the team works daily to offer free medical services as a constant stream of Ecuadorians move through the treatment areas from some of the most remote areas of the province.
We're going to be going to 4 different locations. Every day we're supposed to see approximately 750 patients.
The team never loses momentum. Several patients arrive in very late stages of some severe medical problems. Little can be done outside of working to get them medical treatment in Ecuador's capital. But for thousands more, the bilateral team of doctors screen people for eyeglasses, pull painful teeth, offer prenatal and pediatric care, and general medicine for entire families.
12 people from different backgrounds. Some will be just general health care, others will be dental. We're optometry, so we fit in there. Then we're taking pharmacy down there as well.
This exercise is a joint effort with the government of Ecuador working with the U.S. military group to ensure its citizens receive free medical care.
It's an opportunity really to share what the medical knowledge of really the United States and the developed world with individuals in the developing world, and as a demonstration of our scope to care for refugees, to care for many peacetime missions. This is just excellent training for that, which is part of regular Air Force life. Yes, there's a war fighting in that side of the world, but in terms of really having a humanitarian mission of service, it's clearly part of the Air Force is part of what we all embrace, and quite frankly, it's part of what keeps us all in the Air Force.
It also offers the U.S. team an opportunity to train with medical professionals from other countries, to exchange information, techniques, and promote interoperability.
This mission and just serving in the Air Force and everything that I get to do makes me very proud of the job and proud of being able to serve in the Air Force. It's missions like this that prepare me for the wartime mission that is part of what we do in flight medicine as well too. And after missions like this, I'm able to go home and I have a lot of satisfaction, and I'm proud of the job that I do. I think I've got the best job in the Air Force.
Air Force Space Command has close to 1,000 people deployed to many parts of the world in support of our nation's objectives. But you don't have to be deployed to be employed. Our Air Force Base Today also supports the warfighter and the global war on terror from home stations, such as our launch and missile warning squadrons. Command Chief of Air Force Space Command, Chief Master Sergeant Ron Creta, says there's no need to deploy a space operator to the area of responsibility. They control the satellites from here at home.
They're critical to the mission, because if an airman, a soldier, a Marine, whoever needs, say, a GPS coordinates on a certain target, the communication piece of it has to be critical. The GPS coordinates has to be critical, and they can
They do that mission right back here for the warfighter 6,000, 7,000 miles away to make the mission more accurate. If we need to put a bomb on target on point B, they're honing that coordinates in so that bomb will hit that target where we want it to be. So when we talk about deployed in place, they're doing a critical mission for our nation, and not just in wartime, but in every day for our nation.
Space has transformed the modern battlefield. The United States military is more precise, more efficient, and more combat effective because of space. Air Force Space Command continues to further its exploitation of the high frontier at an altitude that is virtually unused and not quite so far out of this world. The command is developing programs that will operate in the near space region, which is located between 65,000 and 325,000 feet. So what's the vehicle being used to reach near space? An aerial platform that predates the Civil War, the lighter-than-air balloon.
I've been given the task to try to look at what near-term capabilities there may be using commercial or government off-the-shelf technologies to try to exploit this environment in support of the warfighter. We're trying to take new technologies, and you could argue technologies that could date back to Civil War, to see how we could apply these technologies in support of the warfighter.
One such application is a balloon-mounted communications relay that could dramatically expand the range of radios used by ground forces. Dubbed Combat SkySat, untethered hydrogen-filled balloons carry a relay for the PRC-148 radio to between 65 and 95,000 feet. The entire platform weighs less than 6 pounds and can be launched by 1 or 2 people out of the back of a pickup truck. A gas venting and ballasting system controls altitude to optimize the flight path and increase persistence. A single balloon could provide coverage of a given area for a full day, with line-of-sight radio communications increased from about 10 miles to more than 400 miles. The system also allows ground controllers to communicate with strike aircraft over hundreds of miles. Pilots could be talked onto the target much sooner.
Traditionally, we're stuck behind a console in an operating location somewhere where we're watching dots on a screen, providing communication around the globe, providing missile warning capabilities. We're not in connection with this platoon of individuals that are going off doing their mission today. That's what I find so exciting about this program. I'm focused on that 6 to 8 person team that has issues with communications today, and how this inexpensive, expendable system can now help those individuals in some small way, maybe, but at least when they key their mic, it's going to work, and they're going to be able to talk to their buddy when in the past they may not have been able to do so.
We're going on the building that's in the center of the compound house.
The idea of exploiting near space is certainly not new, but it could one day revolutionize communication on the battlefield. Stay tuned as Air Force Space Today continues.
The robotic missions to Mars have provided amazing insight into the planet's history. But that was only the beginning. Someday you might explore the planet yourself. So what would you wear for a trip to Mars? Well, scientists are already working on that very question, in a place you might not expect.
If you're on Earth, which most of you I'm thinking probably are, you're right there. This is space, except generally space is black in color, not white. It's the only figure I had of space. And we're out here somewhere on Mars. Actually, we're not really on Mars. We're kind of pretending like we're on Mars today. We're actually here in the Gulf of Mexico. We're following a ground track down south out of Houston towards Mexico and then back up to Houston. And we're in NASA's KC-135 aircraft. The hurricane recently went that way, and we're down here. We went the other way. That's a good plan in general. If the hurricane goes that way, go the other way. It's NASA's little safety tip for the day. The KC-135 aircraft looks like this when it's in flight. Normally we use this aircraft to simulate the weightlessness that you would feel in the space shuttle, or a spacewalk outside the space shuttle, or the International Space Station. Like a spacewalk like this, it's a good place to test out a suit in this zero-gravity plane. But a spacewalk on the space shuttle is not really a spacewalk at all. It's more of a space float. The suit was never designed to walk in, so the lower torso doesn't have much mobility. You just float around and you pull yourself along handrails. When we go on to Mars, however, we're going to want a spacesuit that does a lot of things that a geologist can do. You're going to want to walk around on the surface, take a hammer and break rocks and pick at rocks, and then you're going to want to be able to pick rocks up and bring them back with you. If you ever go to Mars, that's a very important tip. Don't forget to bring back the rocks. It's like the first thing you learn at astronaut school. If you're stopping by Mars, don't forget the rocks. If you forget the rocks, you probably won't go back. You also want to be able to drive a buggy if you're going to get yourself around the surface like the astronauts did on the moon. You're also going to want to be able to pick yourself up, because if you fall down on Mars, there's really nobody around to help you. And that little Sojourner robot that we sent out to kind of scout out the surface is not big enough to help come along and give you a little lift. You don't want to have to call back to Earth and say, I've fallen and I can't get up, and oh, by the way, I'm on Mars. As in Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars? Listen, if you get to Jupiter, you've gone too far, okay? Houston, this is EV1. Do you have a jack? That's a negative, EV1. Go fish. I hate that, always have to go fish. What is the number for 911? I can never remember that.
From the Pentagon Channel, this is Target Operations. Air Reserve component members are now able to speak to an Air Reserve Personnel Center customer service representative the first weekend of each month. This enhanced customer service is designed to give drilling reservists help resolving personnel issues during their primary unit training assembly. Reservists who still aren't able to call are encouraged to log on to the Virtual Personnel Center Guard and Reserve Customer Service web portal. That's Target Operations.
6 years after it became a full-fledged Air Force base, Buckley in Colorado is now home to the first stateside military chapel in 20 years. Air Force Space Today takes you there.
Buckley Air Force Base is one of the Air Force's newest bases. A lot of building going on here to make a new base. And fairly early in the construction process is this chapel. I think it shows our leaders' commitment to taking care of airmen and their families. It's the spirit of the airman that makes the true warrior that's able to complete our nation's mission. And the chaplain service, working in great facilities like this, is helping commanders take care of the spirits of our people.
I'm very proud of this project. My participation in this project in designing and creating and installing the stained glass took about 5 months. And I appreciate the trust, the enormous trust that the Air Force put in me when they decided to give me this commission.
As a civil engineer, this is a dream job. The chapel's going to be a showcase of the Front Range and a showcase of the Air Force. It's the first chapel to be built in over 20 years. I mean, talk about a front page. I mean, doesn't get any better than that.
The construction of the new chapel is now completed at Buckley and services are underway. And that'll do it for us here at Air Force Base Today. From our new studios at Los Angeles Air Force Base, we'll see you next time.